some people would would be affected by death that way. Na they become more crass. They become more desensitized.
Pipe Network presents.
The views and opinions of the host and the guests do not reflect the views and opinions of the institutions they belong to. Welcome sa isa na namang kwentuhan at balita ng mga pananaw tungkol sa life and everything that goes with it. Dito sa Kwentuhang Pilosopo with Sir Ice. Layunin ng show na ito na gawing bahagi ng pang-araw-araw na buhay ng karaniwang tao, ang gawain ng pagmumuni at pamimilosopiya. Kaya let's go mga peeps, it's Muni Muni time!
This episode is sponsored by Bostik Philippines, makers of high-quality materials and adhesives, fit for interior and exterior construction applications. Check out their No More Nails general-purpose construction adhesive and ultra-fine skim coat, a cement-based powder for a thin plastering application. Bostik Philippines also offers online and in-person training programs, seminars, and conferences through Bostik Academy. They cover various construction techniques and topics such as ceiling and bonding, wall and floor, and consumer DIY. Join Bostik Academy today by clicking the link in the description to access their training programs. Bostik products are also available on Lazada, Shopee, and Zalora, and don't forget to connect with Bostik on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for updates and more.
Alright, magandang araw mga Philo-Peeps. Maraming salamat sa patuloy ninyong pagsubaybay dito sa ating munting podcast na Kwentuhang Pilosopo with Ice dito sa Spotify at siyempre sa YouTube kung gusto nyong makita ang aking mga kausap. No? So, I am very happy today na meron tayong isang panauhin na isang batikang journalist, no? Na kilala, no, sa kanyang I guess mga investigative and mga field
medyo overused yung word na batikan.
batikan.
It simply means matanda.
Buti na lang hindi ko ginamit, sir, alamat.
Ang mga alamat patay na.
Okay.
Maraming alamat dito to.
Meron man living legend. Yan.
So maraming alamat dito to.
Si Joe. Anyway, so magandang araw sa inyo lahat sa mga Philo-Peeps at we welcome Mr. Ed Lingao to our show. Hi, Sir Ed.
Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. At siguro wala kayong ibang magawang matino ngayong araw, no? Kaya kayo nandito nanonood.
Tama, podcast lang. No? Pag walang magawa. Anyway, so Sir, ayaw nga pala ni Mr. Ed Lingao na tinatawag ng Sir. For some reason, hindi natin alam. So, Bok daw ang itawag natin sa kanya. Siguro sa mga hindi nakakaunawa dahil maraming kabataan ang nakikinig, no? There are a lot of my students also who follow the podcast. Saan galing po yung Bok at may ibig sabihin ba yung Bok?
Well, it depends on your point of view. Yung mga sundalo, mga PMA, they call each other Bok. That's one perspective. The other perspective is there are also rebels who also use Bok on each other. It's parang comrade, parang kaibigan, parang kapatid.
Oh, yun pala ibig sabihin nun.
Actually, I don't even know if there really is a meaning to it. I mean, if there's really a translation to it, or it was just made up. It's basically used to signify camaraderie or brotherhood, or simply your way of saying na I forgot your name. What's your name again? Bok ka na.
Oh. Parang pare. Parang pare.
Parang pare, oh. No. So there are those who say na PMA ang origins yan. Pero I've come across rebels who also call each other Bok. Hindi sila PMAers, obviously.
So baka basta something to do with some pag-militar, yan ang tawagan.
Could be
rebelman or government.
Because in general, it's a term used by PMAers addressing each other. Mas specific doon. Pero nga, like I've said, I've come across rebels who've called each other that. So which is weird for me. But I don't know. I really have no idea.
Sige. O ayan, meron tayong bagong natutunan. Kaya may bago kayong pet name sa mga kaibigan nyo. Bok na lang itawag sa kanila.
Hindi mo na pa alam. Bok ka na lang.
Bok na lang. Kasi sa Ateneo grade school nun, parang may mga pa-cute. Pal. Mga
repapipaps.
Cute. Ganyan. Anyway. So sir, Bok. Ano ba yan? Hindi ko talaga maalis sa akin. Dahil sa academe kasi ganyan eh. Ma'am, sir, no? Anyway, gandang pag-usapan po siguro natin yung I guess a bit of your personal family background. No? Saan po ba kayo lumaki? What was your childhood like?
Um,
Your
okay.
family life?
Yeah. Generally, I grew up in Manila eh. Sa Santa Mesa, Sampaloc area. Don Bosco ko from elementary hanggang high school. And first year high school sa Don Bosco, lumipat ako sa seminaryo. Minor seminary. Sa
Oh,
Pampanga yun. Kasi doon lang ang minor seminary ng Don Bosco dati. So that I was in seminary for first to third year. I was 11 years old when I entered the seminary eh. Um, yun, nakakulong ako doon ng 3 taon. Tapos after third year, nagpasya ako na hindi para sa akin to. Lumabas
mm,
ako. So my mom stuck me in Ateneo for fourth year, which is a bit
okay.
unusual. So I finished there and then I went to UP. Sa UP nung una, I took up pre-med.
Yeah.
I took up public health
Mm,
for a year and a half. So ang dami kong, before shifting to journalism, so ang dami kong mga nasayang na units. Math 17, Chem 16, 16.1, Physics 21, 21.1, Zoo 10, yan. Mga masasayang mga subject na hindi ko
subject
na
yan.
nagamit.
Oh,
Nagagamit ko pa rin ngayon ha. Pero alam mo kasi sa journal, ang malaking biro sa journal eh, Math 1 lang, nahihirapan yung mga reporter eh.
totoo.
Mukhang ganun nga. Pero sa akin I find good use for all of these things.
Mm, okay.
So yun, middle class. My mom was a university nurse of Ateneo for the
Mm.
longest time, 2 decades ata, or 2.5 decades. My dad was a doctor.
Oh.
Yeah, allergologist. Yun. So
So sir,
yun.
yung interesado ako dun sa pagpasok niyo sa seminaryo. Kasi bata pa kayo nun.
Yeah, I was 11.
So, what was that? Yung parang may
Ang nanay
may
ko umiyak eh. Parang,
di ba?
ha? Ba't ka magpapare? Iwan mo kami.
So, parang medyo weird 'yun. So, what was
Medyo weird.
the hindi kasi for very young child na pumasok agad sa
Yeah,
seminaryo,
yeah. Well,
so weird 'yan.
typically they'd advise those who want to become priests to enter the seminary later on in life eh, mga college or after college. Na major
Ah,
seminary pala eh.
mm,
I think that's the thinking now. But in the olden days, meron pang minor seminary so that you can have formation early on.
hmm,
So yun, no? I was in grade 6 ata when we had a talk with some priests and they were asking who wants to try the seminary and I said, yeah, why not? That sounds like a good idea. Makakaloko ka ng mga tao.
bakit
Just kidding.
nga sir? Parang ano 'yun, meron ba kayong calling? Meron ba
Yeah, yeah.
kayong
I think you'd like to think that well, no, I like to think that at that early point in my life I had a mission, if you might call it
mm,
that, a mission that I had to follow and fight for, and that's how I ended up in the seminary for at 11 years old. And in some ways, I suppose I know I've let go of that mission kasi after third year nga, I left the seminary, but in some ways the theme carried on kasi I thought of becoming a doctor, like my dad, and then I thought of becoming a journalist.
mm,
So, kung pagtahi-tahiin mo sila, I suppose they have one thing in common, which is I don't know, a sense of calling.
yeah,
Well, of course, hindi naman pare-pareho lahat, no? May mga doktor na loko-loko, may mga reporter na loko-loko, may mga paring loko-loko. But in the end, it's not a job.
yeah,
It's an
patient,
advocacy, it's a profession, it's a vocation.
yeah.
So I suppose
So,
it's a common denominator.
mm. I guess yung something to
Something to fight
reflect
for.
on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something to
something.
reflect on also sir yung idea na um yung religious life is not necessarily I guess divorced secular life. Kasi parang
Yeah,
they're bound together by the idea of service.
yeah,
'Di ba? Yung
yeah.
parang may mga tao kasi nag-iisip, pagka pare ganyan parang medyo ivory tower, parang humihiwalay yung
Yeah, yeah,
mundo,
yeah.
'di ba? Pero kasi
Bu-
halimbawa sa Ateneo, tinuturuan kami yung mga hiswita raw talagang dapat yan ay hindi lang yung nandun sa seminaryo na
You come down from the hill.
yung may ganun kaming may indoctrination sa amin gano'n, 'di ba, na
But trained kasi under the Salesians eh. I mean, from elementary up to the seminary. Eh. And ng mga Salesians, may mga topak ng mga Salesians eh. Well, in a good way. Uh, uh, Salesians kasi, the priests of Don Bosco and the brothers of Don Bosco, they work with out of school youth and vocational students eh. So, yung perspectives medyo kakaiba. Medyo rough and tumble, you might say. I remember sa seminary kasi nakakulong lang kami, walang maglilinis, walang mag-aayos. So kami rin 'yan. So for example, pag ma-assign ka sa banyo, dormitory 'yan eh.
hmm,
Ma-assign ka sa banyo, it's a common lavatory and toilet. You have 6 to 8 stalls of toilets. Lilinisin mo 'yan na wala kang basahan o skoba.
Hmm?
Meron ka lang muriatic acid, sabon at batya.
anong pinampapahid niyo?
Kutkutin mo.
Ang kamay?
Oo.
'Di ba masusunog yung kamay mo sa muriatic acid?
Kaya may sabon eh. You dilute the muriatic acid in water and soap. Nasa pagtitimpla mo na yon. It's a good thing din kasi if you feel the tingle in your hands kasi that reminds you that this is disinfectant. So,
Okay.
so alam mo yun?
Ganun pala yun.
So yeah, mas pasintabi sa mga kumakain. So, inidoro yan. Papasok mo kami mo doon sa loob.
Kahit
Siyempre,
gloves, ano yun, pinagbabawal o sinasadya talaga?
Prof, kung bibigyan ka ng guwantes, bibigyan ka rin ng scuba sana.
Yun nga eh. Kaya nga, ano yan, may pedagogical value ba yun? Ano ba yung punto nun?
Well, they never explained it to us. At least in my generation, I don't know if it carried on to future generations or if it applied to past generations. But in my generation, it was that way. And in hindsight, I like to think of it this way. If he can do that, you can do anything.
Oo.
You can be assigned anywhere. Walang keme-keme, walang hiya-hiya, walang awa-awa sa sarili. Pwede kang
Wow.
itapon kahit saan. Kasi talaga, alam mo, lalagyan mo ng muriatic, sabon sa tubig, tapos papasok mo kami sa inidoro.
Toro.
As in, kukutkot ka dun sa loob. I'm sorry sa mga nakikinig. I'm probably grossing you out, but
Talaga. Yan pala ang origin story ni Ed Lingao. Di ba?
so, but
Nanggaling sa
I,
banyo ng Don Bosco.
I would not want that for my kid or for anybody. But to me, I found value in that eh. Kasi tapon mo kahit saan, wala akong pakialam. I can do anything that has to be done.
This episode is brought to you by Malufet Patisserie. Kung gusto niyo ng masarap na personalized cakes, pastries, and others, visit Malufet Patisserie in Quezon City. You can message them at facebook.com/malufetpatisserie. Details on the description below.
Ang ganda nun, sir.
But nga, it's not something I'd like for my kid.
Oo, naiintindihan natin. Laging ganun, laging may exception naman yung parents. Pero yung idea na yun, mga Philo-Pips, ang ganda nun, yung sinabi ni sir na itapon mo ko kahit saan. Wala akong pakialam.
Magmisyonaryo ka, hindi ka pwedeng uy.
Hindi kasi siguro yan yung isang bagay na I guess it's hindi lang siya skill eh. It's also an art. May technique dito sa yung ganyang uri ng pagbabalanse ng mahal mo sarili mo, 'di ba?
Mhm.
Meron kang pananagutan na pangalagaan yung sarili mo, but at the same time babalansehin mo dun rin yun yung pag-aalala mo sa sarili mo doon sa objetibong hinihiling sa'yo ng isang partikular na sitwasyon at kung ano
How
yung
far do you push that boundary, di ba?
ano
Di
yung
ba?
dapat mong
Before
ibigay.
you break. So ganun.
Ang ganda nun.
Just to qualify, I don't know if that carried on to future generations and such kasi nga basta as far as I remember and I talk about this sometimes with my former classmates sa seminary, we had the same recollection. Para kasi sometimes I wonder, ako lang ba nakaranas? Hindi naman pala.
Okay. Hindi
Tanong
kasi
mo si Kuya Kim. Si Kuya Kim at yan sa klase
oo.
seminaryo.
I see. Kasi nagtuturo din po ako sa seminaryo, St. Camillus Seminary. Nagtuturo ako doon. Pero parang wala akong nababalitaan naman na naglilinis sila ng inidor gamit yung kamay
But
nila
it's
at
good
puro
training. Tapos
oo.
pagkatapos ng merienda kayo, tinapay
Oo,
hawak-hawak.
tinapay pa, 'di ba? Sausaw pa sa kape.
Tinapay
Oo.
hawak ko. Tapos everything is regulated, everything is scheduled. Wala kang free time. You only eat what they feed you, and that's not much. So usually gutom yung mga tao.
Mm.
I remember nga, talagang naka-schedule lahat eh. The best day would be Sunday kasi on a Sunday afternoon, on a Sunday lunch, we would be given one small piece of fried chicken, rice, and a warm bottle of RC Cola.
Warm talaga. Mm.
Sa dami namin, hindi na pwede refrigerate yun eh. Happy na kami noon.
Hmm,
Pastoral celebration yun. And our parents would be allowed to visit us on the first Sunday of every month lang.
I see. So
So,
para talaga siyang kulungan,
that's that's a good way of putting it.
'di ba?
Yeah,
Kasi
except it was self-imposed.
yeah, pinili naman. But at the same time, hindi ba parang dun mo rin mararamdaman, I guess, yung idea na at a young age naintindihan niyo na idea ng power dynamics,
Mm.
'di ba? Kasi may isang pilosopo ang pangalan niya si Michel Foucault.
Mm.
Pinag-usapan niya yung panopticon, pinag-usapan niya yung biopower. Sabi niya, at the end of the day, ang kapangyarihan talaga dito sa politika, sa kahit ano, is manifested through uh, a particular entity knowing, quote unquote, knowing so much about you, knowing yung biological, medical, basta lahat, religious beliefs mo. Tapos that's how they manipulate you. Parang aalamin nila tungkol lahat sa'yo hanggang ikaw na mismo yung parang magsasubmit ng sarili mong information involuntarily, subconsciously. Tapos
You don't know that you're already
parang gano'n. Tapos
cooperating.
oo, yung parang ganyan. So, ang galing lang na hindi, kasi ang example niya rin dun sa libro niya yung seminaryo, military camps, et cetera. So, napapaisip lang din. Kasi ako personally, hindi ko ma-imagine yung sarili kong kaya ko yun. Yung ilalagay ko yung kapalaran ko at yung araw-araw kong buhay sa kamay ng ibang taong hindi ko kaano-ano. Parang
Well,
kayo bilang bata, parang naisip niyo, "Okey lang 'to." Parang ako parang, Parang maiisip kung gagawin yun ng bata-bata ako pa puwede lang naglalaro, 'di ba yung parang
well, that's true. That was an age when most other people would be worried about other things like puberty, for example,
mm.
which basically I skipped normal puberty because of that.
Kaya nga, eh.
I was busy with toilets.
Kaya nga, so parang mahiwaga sa'kin yun na yung sa ganyang edad ay maiisipan na voluntarily submit yourself to domination, so to
But
speak.
there are cultures like that. I mean, I'm not just talking about culture per se, but military cultures like that.
Yeah,
Except that
precisely.
they do it at an older age.
Hmm,
But it is voluntary for one. Same with military culture, and total submission.
yeah.
So in a sense, sa akin naman, the submission itself was not hard eh.
Hmm,
I mean, the physical submission was not difficult. It was the mental submission that tended to be a bit more difficult kasi you have to be so obedient all the time.
yes.
When it comes to doctrine,
Hmm,
no choice.
true.
Eh, may top ako minsan, parang, pwede ba yun? Tama ba yun?
Yun, yun.
Doon ako nagkaka-problema minsan.
Oo, kasi halimbawa sa pilosopiya tinuturo namin lahat questionin mo, eh. Hindi pupuwedeng kung ano lang sabihin sa'yo gawin mo.
Oo, kaya ako nag-report
Parang
eh.
'di ba? Kaya nga parang ang ano nun, eh, 'di ba, yung parang ewan ko lang personally parang nahihirapan lang ako na to wrap my mind around the idea. Yun nga na marami naman akong kilalang mga pare at mga militar. Tapos yun, nabibilib lang ako sa kanila na nagawa nila yun. And 'di ba, kasi the alternative is parang you're free, you can choose your own
Yeah.
path, you can go to the mall, eat whatever you want. Pero sila sinabi nila, "Hindi, magpapa-straight jacket ako." Tapos iniisip ko, anong value nun? Personally, individually, ano yung gusto mong ma-achieve para sa sarili mo?
Yeah, but yun nga, it's submission eh. It's submission to what you would like to think of as a greater goal in
Yun,
the future.
yun.
But like I said nga, the physical submission was apparently at least easier for me than the intellectual submission, because yun nga, there are things that they would make you do that I would not question, like yun nga, yung the 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 scheduling, the cleaning, pati bubuhat ng hollow blocks. Nagbubuhat kami ng hollow blocks eh. Ang papayat namin noon 11 years old, kasi tutulong kami sa construction ng bagong
Oo,
wing. Ganoon, na nagsusunog kami ng basura, yun. That was fine. That was fine. It's just that when, you know, parang can I be obedient all my life
yun,
without question?
yun,
Then that could be problematic.
yun.
Some people can be, and some people cannot be. And that
Precisely.
was more difficult for me.
Yun. Sige sir, punta na tayo sa UP
Sorry,
life.
mahaba.
Hindi, okay lang. Hindi, kasi ang dami nating yung mga nakikinig ngayon, lalo na ngayon panahon, 'di ba, ng liberal na mag-isip yung mga tao, tapos we value freedom so much, choice, etc. Parang there are actually people na papaalala natin na pinipiling mag pinipiling magpatali, no? Na maaaring yung ibang tao iniisip nila parang hindi nila maiisip gawin yun sa sarili nila. Pero may mga taong pinipiling magpatali, nagpapakasal sa isang gawain na to a certain extent
Yeah,
maraming
that's true.
limitasyon, 'di ba?
That's
Maraming
true. But
limitasyon.
to some people, submission is also a kind of freedom.
Oh, yan sir, elaborate mo yan. Ang ganda niyan.
Diba? Well,
Oo,
the fact that you are willing to and able to submit means that you're free to do so.
yeah,
And the fact that you can choose to go out anytime is also an exercise of your freedom. Eh. So in a sense, saan kasi, it's one way of developing as well yourself and your mind and your character. If you're not able to make decisions like that early on, then you're not as free as you'd like to think.
true. Mm.
So sa akin may ganun lang ba?
Tsaka sabi niyo nga, 'di ba, ang ganda nun kasi ang ibinunga nun, ngayon ang mentalidad niyo, itapon niyo ko kahit saan, wala akong
Oh,
pakialam. Yun talaga binunga nun, 'di ba? Yun talaga ang binunga nun, na hindi lahat ng tao, kaya yan. 'Di ba, hindi lahat ng tao kaya yung, "Sige
ang
kahit
problema,
saan."
Prof, ang problema nandun ngayon kasi, I mean, in this modern age, it might be seen as child abuse. Kasi I was 11 years
Oo,
old.
oo nga. Eh, okey lang. Hindi, I mean, yung ano lang, yung idea na okey, yung ano yung take away mo dun, 'di ba? Yung parang yun ang kumbaga bahagi yun ng karanasan mo na kaya ka naging isang Ed Lingao.
Kaya ako naging weird.
Oo. Eh, kasi yung mga pinupuntahan niyo sa field, 'di ba, yung mga war zone, yung mga bulkan, kumbaga ako halimbawa, iniisip ko nga, maarte ba ako 'pag iniisip ko na hindi ko kayang gawin yung ginagawa ninyo halimbawa. Maarte ba akong tao? Halimbawa ako, problema ko ang banyo, okey. Feeling ko hindi ko kaya unless sobrang kailangan, parang feeling ko hindi ko kayang jumebs lang kahit saan or
Mm,
parang
mm.
'di ba may mga gano'n, eh.
Marami namang gano'n, boss. Marami namang gano'n na
Oo.
it's natural. It's natural. May mga pagkakataon naman ako na parang biglang ayaw lumabas dahil
Oo nga,
nahihiya.
oo,
May mga pagkakataon na parang wala akong pakialam sa'yo.
oo. Pero yun nga, eh, yung ideya na kaya ninyong ayan, ito yung isang bagay na iniisip ko, kaya mo bang buhatin yung sarili mo? Parang minsan madali yung kaya mong magbuhat ng ibang tao kasi parang you're
Mm,
suffused with virtue and all these heroic
yeah,
whatever.
sense of altruism, mga
Ay,
gano'n,
yan. Pero minsan yung sarili mo, parang may bargaining na parang, "Wag naman yan." Wag naman
mas
'yan.
mabigat pala sarili 'no?
Oo, ayun nga iniisip ko, eh, yung ideya na minsan yung layaw ng sarili minsan mas madaling mas mahirap na hindi pagbigyan kasi sarili mo na yun, eh, 'di ba? Parang
Mm.
pagbigyan mo na, sarili mo naman yan, eh. Pero halimbawa kayo, 'pag pumupunta kayo sa mga, sa mga may giyera-giyera, 'di ba, sa mga lugar kung saan nakakaharap ninyo talaga yung radikal na kaiba, yung talagang mga tao na hindi minsan maiisip mo, "How do they live like this?" 'Di ba, paano
Mm.
sila
Mm.
nabubuhay ng ganyan, et cetera. Ano yung
Yeah.
karanasan niyo na yun? Pag-uwi ninyo, 'di ba, babalik kayo sa bahay niyo, et cetera. How do those experiences affect you physically and mentally? Pagkagaling niyo dun sa radikal na ibang lugar. Kamukha nung pumunta kayo ng West Philippine Sea, 'di ba, recently. Tapos,
Mm.
sa Marawi, 'di ba? Ano yung
Well, Prof, it's quite surreal eh. Yung one moment you're trying to survive, you're helping people survive, uh, you're living from day to day. The next moment you're just chilling at home and drinking beer. Uh, it, Sometimes it freaks me out. Really, sometimes it freaks me out.
mm,
Parang, do I get nightmares? I don't even get nightmares, and that's the scary part of it. Eh. Kasi I know people who do get nightmares. I've been to Iraq. I've been to Afghanistan twice. I've been to places like that. I've seen people die.
mm,
Um, in the end, you know what I learned from all these things? Hindi ka naawa sa patay. Eh.
mm,
I don't know if that sounds weird.
hmm,
Hindi na ako naawa sa patay. The dead don't bother me. Eh.
mm,
Not as much as the living.
yeah,
It's the people who get left behind. Those are the ones that really bother me.
I see.
Um, so examples lang. 1987. Well, most of your viewers siguro don't know this. Yung Doña Paz tragedy.
Mm,
Doña Paz was a ferry, inter-island ferry traveling from, I think, from Samar or Leyte to Manila. Got rammed or collided with the empty vector tanker. It sank with 5,000 people.
mm,
20 survivors. That was almost Christmas Eve of 1987, and I was a new reporter. It was just several months old in the beat. Christmas Eve, I was in the morgue in Santa Cruz, and they were collecting the dead, burned bodies that were bloated from so many days under the sun. And it didn't bother me anymore. I mean, seeing pieces of people and seeing pieces of babies on the floor wasn't as bothersome as uh, maybe bothersome is not the right word. Eh. It wasn't as troubling
mm,
as watching their families pick through the remains.
mm,
And, in some ways, that was a learning for me. Eh. The dead are at peace,
yeah,
happy for them. The living are not.
yun. Yung
Worry
grieving
about them.
process, ano?
Yeah, that's nothing more difficult than the grieving process. And watching people grieve. I saw that again in Ormoc. Ormoc City, the mudslide that claimed 6,000 people
Mhm,
in 1990, 1991 yata yun. I was watching a family wading through the surf in Ormoc, looking to the bodies floating in the water to look for their mother.
mm,
The bodies are bloated already and unrecognizable. And wala ng clothes because they got ripped off already. They were going to the bodies looking for their mother.
mm,
These were kids.
mm,
Uh, and that was bothersome. Oh no, sorry. That was troubling.
mm,
Uh, yun nga eh. It's kind of weird nga eh. When you think about it eh. Don't worry about the dead. They're at peace.
yeah,
It's the living. It's the living you need to care for. And that
yes,
sticks to me. That sticks to me. It's
mm,
the living you need to care for. And consequently, it's how you write about the living and how you treat them.
yeah,
That affects how I write my stories, how I look at religion as well, how
mm.
I life. Dikit-dikit na siya. it's not so much the, you know, the spiritual aspect of things, or maybe that's the wrong word for it, as much as it is the social aspect of things. To me,
Yeah.
the social kasi is more spiritual sometimes. Eh.
Mm.
It's your spirituality to me is dependent on how you treat people.
Answer.
Sorry, I'm crossing left and right.
Hindi, hindi. Ganda, ganda. Ganda nun. I mean, in-imagine ko lang din yung scale. Minsan yung scale ng tragedy din kasi, minsan, I would guess parang medyo nakaka-desensitize pag ganun kalaki yung...
Yeah, it's staggering sometimes. Eh. And sometimes, you know, that's one thing I also learned in covering dead people.
Hmm.
The easiest thing to do for a lot of reporters and photojournalists is to be crass and crude and desensitized and act like, you know, wala yan, patay lang yan eh. Pagtatawanan nila yung mga patay, gano'n, no? That's one way of doing it eh. That's one way of showing that you're tough. Because
Yeah.
a lot of reporters like to show themselves to be tough.
Hmm.
Uh, I I like to look at it from a different point of view. The smell of death and the sight of death reminds me of how important the smaller things in life are. To
Hmm.
appreciate the smaller things in life,
Wow.
sunshine. I mean, it's so weird. The sunshine, sunrises.
Kasi pagpatay ka na, wala na. Hindi mo na mararanasan
Yeah,
yun.
but yung nga, some people would would be affected by death that way. Na they become more crass. They become more
Hmm.
desensitized. Kaya a lot of reporters walk around like they have two big balls, even though they don't. Kasi
Hmm.
gusto pakita ng siga sila, macho sila eh. It's a macho culture in
Ah.
reporting. That's sometimes terrible. And it manifests itself in bad ways in how reporters sometimes treat victims.
Hmm.
Barubal minsan ng mga reporter magtrato sa mga biktima eh, because that's part of the macho culture. Sa
Eh,
akin, I like to think of it as the opposite dapat the effect eh. The
tama.
more death and dying and misery you see, the more sensitive you have to be.
Yeah.
Not just for not just for the people you interact with, but also for yourself.
Hmm.
So I learned to appreciate really, really small things.
Yeah.
Just sit down in the grass and smell smell the air. Sometimes. And it's weird. Pero that's how I deal with things eh. That's how I deal with all the things I've seen. I mean, other reporters would have had PTSD already. I'd like to think I don't. Or maybe I'm just weird.
Hindi. Hindi, tama yan. Ako, isa sa mga lagi kong I guess, tinuturo din sa mga estudyante ko yung idea ng memento mori. Diba? Na sa totoo lang, kahit saan ka tumingin, ang lahat ng yan ay pansamantala at unti-unti nang nagwi-wither away, including yourself, no?
Very temporal.
I guess when you're able to have that kind of experience, yung kagaya na sa inyo na staggering view of people lying dead on the shore or on the mountainside, whatever. Parang mas ano siya eh, mas oppressive. Mas
Yeah.
oppressive yung katotohanan na sandali lang 'to, 'di
Are
ba?
we all just pieces of meat and bone?
Precisely, precisely, you know? And it humbles you, 'no, sa lahat
Yeah,
ng
it does.
yabang mo, may ganito ako, dito ako nakatira, madami akong ganyan, dito ako nag-aral, dami kong award. Anong pinagkaiba mo dun sa katawan na yon na nakahandusay doon sa gilid ng
Para ka lang baboy.
'di ba? Kasi sa huli yan ka lang naman, eh. Yan rin lang tayong lahat. At kung ano man yung meron tayo ngayon na meron tayong wika, kultura, et cetera, itong mga pinagsasaluhan nating mga espirituwal na bagay, pagdating sa dulo iiwan mo yan lahat,
Mm.
'di ba?
Yeah.
At
And
babaon ka lang sa lupa.
that's the drive to be different. And that's the drive to make a difference.
Honestly.
Di ba? It should be, it could be and should be a driving factor for a good reporter. Na because of that,
Precisely.
have to do better.
True.
I mean, like to think of it that way.
Mm.
You have to be better. Otherwise, you're just a chunk of meat.
Yeah.
It's able to type or go on camera.
Oh, parang it's so, I guess minsan din, I guess, hindi ko alam, no, dahil hindi man ako reporter at hindi ako masyadong alam sa media, but it's easy to forget your humanity kapag ka araw-araw ganito yung nakikita mo, araw-araw nagsasalita ka tungkol sa isang, I don't know, crime or whatever.
Yeah, because you could
Parang
become jaded.
ang bilis mong magpalit ng, hindi mo pa tapos basahin at iproseso ang isang pangyayari. May bago na naman, pupunta ka na
Tragedya na
naman doon,
naman.
iba na naman makikita mo. So parang I guess yun yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit, yung parang nagiging impersonal na yung approach ng tao at naka-focus na lang sa ego, no?
Yeah.
Hindi na yung storya, hindi na yung mga pangyayari, hindi na yung mga biktima, hindi yung mga tao. Yung sarili na lang kasi 6 hours mo lang silang pag-uusapan tapos kinabukasan iba na naman, next time iba na naman, 'di ba? Parang
Then you move on to the next
walang
tragedy.
nabubuong ano, 'di ba? Walang nabubuong bond or walang nabubuong connection masyado dun sa pangyayari kasi may
Mhm.
tawag na naman, "O pumunta ka dun, o pumunta ka dun, pumunta ka dun."
I remember yung Doña Paz, I was stuck in the morgue for several hours. Ang lagkit ng ng amoy.
Mm,
Talaga matindi lagkit ng amoy. Kasi there's nothing worse than there's nothing worse than a floating body.
yeah.
Kasi it bloats and the gases come out. But there's nothing worse than that than a burned body. Kasi matindi ang amoy. It was both. And these were, I think there were 10 or 20 bodies in there.
Mm.
So coming from there, that was Christmas Eve. It was surreal when I stepped out of the morgue. Noche Buena na ata kasi I remember firecrackers. Nagpuputukan sa labas. Naghihiyawan mga tao. So that was surreal coming from inside.
Mm.
Um, Tanda ko pa nun, meron pang LRT So I rode the LRT to Monumento, Santa Cruz
Ah.
Punong-puno ang LRT ng tao. Pero surprisingly, walang tumatabi sa akin.
Bakit kaya?
As in ang luwag ko.
Bakit kaya?
Kumapit yung amoy.
Mm.
Kumapit yung amoy. Inuwi ko yung amoy sa bahay.
Naku.
Thankfully, when I got home, walang tao sa bahay. Everybody was at Misa de Gallo. So I removed my sneakers sa front door and left them outside for the next 3 weeks. Hindi ko magalaw kasi ang lagkit ng sahig ng morgue.
Ah,
Kasi
mm.
tumutulo yung yung
Lahat
bodily fluid.
tumutulo, oo.
Ang lagkit ng So I left it out there for the next 3 weeks
Yeah.
and took a shower kagad. Then the smell would come back to me for several months. Magigising ka na lang, maamoy mo bigla. Anyway, that was a long time ago.
Anyway, sir, since we're
Sorry.
on this topic already, kamatayan, I hope it's okay na pag-usapan din natin yung personal naman na
Yeah.
trahedya na pinagdaanan ninyo ng inyong kabiyak, no? The sudden passing of your only daughter, no?
Yeah.
Can you give a brief story? Ano nangyari and how did you deal with this loss?
Walang there was no warning at all. It was May 3, Press Freedom Day pa nga nun 2017. Normally we'd have lunch out. So si Ellie was her name. She was 16 then. She took a shower and my wife knocked on the door of the bathroom telling her, Ellie, hurry up so we can go out for lunch. And she responded naman, yeah, mom, give me a minute. Ganun.
Mm.
Tapos mamaya, after 30 minutes, hindi pa nila lumalabas.
Mm.
So we started panicking, started banging on the door. There was no reply. Um, there were no indications naman kasi. So, nung una, inisip namin, baka mamaya she was using her headphones. Ano yung gano'n? O baka nakatulog, which is not unlikely. Or if at all, baka she passed out. So looked for a way to get in. Was able to pick the lock after 20 minutes siguro. Then we found her on the floor of the shower room. Walang malay.
Mm.
And we rushed her to the hospital, but she had already passed. So aneurysm siya. No indicators at all. And she was our only child.
Yeah.
So it was really, really very difficult. That was a very, very difficult time for us. Because we had built our lives around her.
Precisely.
My wife built her life around her. I built my life around her. I remember people would ask me, "Why are you in journalism? Why don't you do something else, something more stable, something that doesn't take you away from family?" And I like telling them, when I get old and gray and when I die, I'd like my child to say, "That was my dad. This is what he did. This is what he left behind for us." I mean, you want to leave something behind for your children that they could be proud of. Eh, nauna sa akin yung anak ko. So that was difficult then.
Oo.
So yun, it was 2017 was a bad year. A very bad year. Emotionally, physically, and also politically. But at the same time, the pain is what makes you value them all the more. It's a
Mm.
reminder to you that that they're valuable and they're
Mm.
irreplaceable. So
Mm.
yes, it hurt us a lot when she left us, but at the same time, it was also a reminder to us na this is how much we love her. Nothing else will replace the hole she left in our hearts.
Mm.
Um, it's I can say that I can say that I mean it's not the same as saying na there's a reason for it happening. There's no way to justify that naman eh.
Mm.
It's that you learn to appreciate them all the more.
Mm.
Yeah. Ayun. Yeah. Learn to appreciate them all the more. Ako kasi my point of view of death is a bit weird eh.
And ano po ba ang point of view niyo diyan?
I Wala, if I die, I die. I'm not really that scared of dying. I've had a lot of close calls already.
Mm.
I just wanted to be it sounds so weird eh. I just wanted to be meaningful. Hindi yung tipong, hindi
Namatay
yung
lang.
tipong when nasagasaan ka ng pison, mga ma-TV patrol ka pa nun. Huwag naman ganun. But you know what I mean? There has to be value in your life and in your death. I'd like to think. The more value you put in there, not actively, no? Pero you'd like to think that your life means something, not just to you, but to other people. Eh.
Mm.
So, ako if I die, I die.
Mm.
There are many times I thought that I was going already. Afghanistan, for example, was one. We thought we were going already. Inisip ko lang, I was more worried about oh my God, what about my family? They'll have a hard time coping kasi they will never find our bodies. Ganun eh. Uh,
Oo.
Pinahirapan ko pa yung pamilya ko. Oo, yung gusto ganun. Kasi this was 2001, war on terror ng US. We were on the road to Kabul. Puro bandits yung kalsada. And we got held up several miles away pa from Kabul in a mountain road. Baba kami. Of course, we don't know Arabic, we don't know Persian, we don't know Dari, we just know English. Pilipini, sapi. Pinababa kami, pinaakyat kami ng burol. This is the desert, desert and rocks, sand and rocks. So we were away na from the main road. And I was thinking, God, if they capture us, it's gonna be a cold night and a hot day. They kill us. I hope they still find the bodies. If they don't, kawawa yung family mo. Kasi they will look and look and look and they will never know where to look. It was more that. It was not parang shaking your boots or worried about dying. It wasn't that. It's more like, oh fuck. I'm sorry. Sila.
Okay lang, sir. Okay lang.
Oy, kawawa naman yung mga maiiwan.
Yun talaga yung tema nyo. Kasi kanina pa, yun rin pinag-uusapan nyo. Worry about the living. Don't worry about the dead.
Yeah, kasi I can go anytime. I don't really mind anymore. I mean, I think I've had a full life. Not that I'm looking for death. It's just that if it comes, it comes. I think I could have said goodbye several years ago na and that would have been fine.
Pero ano yan, sir? Hindi ba yan parang fatalistic mindset na sira, bahala na. Diba?
Well, fatalistic
patay.
is but to me kasi fatalistic is being submissive. It's letting it happen to you. I'm more of the type who would fight back. Like when they were holding us up, when they were mugging us, I was trying to argue and failing to argue because it was in English.
Pilipini.
Pilipini, sapi. So, but at the same time, I was looking at where they were, who had what arms, and whether I can reach if I need to. Kasi pag nagsimulang magpaputok ang isa, sunod-sunod na yan eh. So, pag may pumutok, sinong uunahin ko? Kung
na iniisip nyo.
Kung adedo ako, at least may isasama kita. Parang ganun. I mean, to me, that's not fatalism. It's more of it's more of acceptance, but not in a submissive way. Kasi to me kasi fatalism is parang if it happens to you, it happens to you. My point of view is it will happen to me only if I let it happen to me. And not if I'm not gonna let you get away with it.
Parang gano'n.
So there were a lot of fun times like that. Sorry, I always digress. Sorry. Moving on.
Yeah, maganda yun. Hindi ko lang na-expect na yung pag-uusap natin ay mauuwi sa, I guess, a bulk of our conversation has been about death. No? And I'm someone who is really fascinated about the topic. And lagi ko tinuturo yung kamatayan sa Kilo 101, sa mga estudyante,
That's an interesting
etc.
topic.
Kasi sa huli, ano pa ba yung pwede mong pag-usapan talaga na may value sa buhay, kundi yung wakas. Kasi yung wakas naman talaga yung nagdedetermina kung ano yung gagawin mo ngayon. Di ba? Parang, sabi nga ng isang pilosopo, yung buhay natin ay parang it's always being ahead of itself. We're always ahead of it. Diba? We're always projecting ourselves in the future. And ultimately, who is your future? It's your dead self. Diba? Who should you listen to? Who should you listen to at the end of the day about what to do and what to value, etc.? It's your dead self. Diba? You listen to your dead self. Ano ba gusto mong mangyari sa buhay mo? Bahala ka sa buhay mo. Pamamatay ka. Ano gagawin mo?
But it's also a matter of perspective, I suppose. I mean, sabi nga ni Ninoy, di ba? The Filipino is worth dying for. My point of view is, he's worth dying for nga. But it also goes a long way if you live for him as well.
Yeah. Totoo. Kasi minsan, yung pagka minsan naman na masyado kang romanticize mo naman yung kamatayan, may mga ilalagay mo rin yung sarili mo sa mga sitwasyon na alanganin na pwede namang hindi, na
Mm.
hindi na praktikal, 'no? So yung balanse lang nun, I guess yun yung mahalaga. Pero siguro sir, just to, I guess, wrap up this conversation, yung inyong karera ay tumagal ng, I guess, I'm
36
guessing
years.
30, 40 years?
36 years. Hindi naman 40.
Okay,
Hindi naman
wala
40,
pa. Four
36
four
years.
years pa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simula ako sa dyaryo eh. I'm a newspaper man at heart.
So yun, 'no? And you've been, kumbaga, you've been staying, tarrying, dwelling in a particular field for such a long time, 'di ba? Ngayon may mga kabataan, may mga tao na kumbaga medyo nomadic na ang view nila sa career, 'di ba? Kung
Mm.
nasaan yung pera, dun ka pupunta. Kapagka kumonti yung pera, hanap ka ng iba. Or 'pag di ka na masaya, 'di ba, parang hindi mo na nararamdaman yung growth mo, et cetera, or parang hindi ka na appreciate, o even bahala na 'yan, hanap ka na ng iba, 'no? I myself have been teaching for 20 years, 'no, and a lot of people have been also asking me, "How do you do it?" Then parang doing the same thing over and over again every day, 'di ba? Talking about the parang parang hindi ka ba nagsasawa? Yung idea ng sawa, kasi parang iniisip nila ang ikli-ikli ng buhay ng tao tapos yan lang gagawin mo buong buhay mo. And ako rin minsan tinatanong ko yung sarili ko nun kasi usually,
Yeah, I get what you mean.
kita mo yung mga kasamahan mo sa mga batchmates mo, 'di ba, mga abogado, corporate, et cetera. Palipat-lipat sila ng korporasyon kung saan may mataas ang offers, ang gaganda ng kotse nila, bahay nila, et cetera. Tapos ako iniisip ko, bakit ko ba 'to ginagawa nga, 'no? At, ah, hanggang ngayon mahiwaga sa'kin yung tanong na yun, pero ang malinaw lang sa akin, buhay ako kapag nasa classroom ako.
Mhm.
Parang dun ko
Mm.
nahahanap yung sarili ko sa classroom at kapag pinag-uusapan ko ang philosophy. Parang wala akong pakialam kung sino yung estudyante sa harap, 'di ba? Ang mahalaga sa akin ay yung maibahagi itong ideya ng filosofiya sa mga tao. Kasi minsan may mga guro na dumedepende sa estudyante yung
Mm.
gigil at gana nila, 'di ba? Ako parang consistent lang, parang sa akin naniniwala kasi ako na may value 'tong binebenta ko. By the end of the semester, bibilhin niyo 'to, 'di ba? Maniwala kayo, bibilhin niyo 'to. Kukuha kayong buy one take one nitong pilo na 'to.
Grabe naman, you make it sound like snake oil. Hindi
Parang
naman.
ganyan. Hindi kasi mahirap mahirap din ibenta, 'di ba? Kasi
Yeah, I can imagine, I
ano
can
siya,
imagine.
core subject siya, hindi naman siya major subject na, 'di ba, 'pag iniisip mo, ani naman ng mga doktor at engineer at 'di ba, at mga CEO ang philosophy sa buhay nila, 'di ba? So, yun, yun yung parang passion ko na gusto kong ibenta 'tong parang hindi masyadong mabentang bagay. Tapos kapag nakakakuha ako ng mga messages sa mga estudyante many years after graduation, tapos sasabihin, "Sir, nangyari 'to ganyan." Tapos naalala ko yung pinag-usapan natin sa isang klase, parang yun na yung ano ko, I guess validation na, okey, parang I should
Mm.
continue doing this.
Mhm.
Parang
Mm.
may nangyayaring mabuti pala, 'no, na kinalalabasan 'to, 'no. So I guess sa field niyo naman, 'di ba, ano naman, what's making you stay? 'Di ba? Kasi you're someone na parang sabi mo nga, kahit saan niyo ako itapon wala akong pakialam, 'di ba? So bakit
You know,
nandiyan ba, Ed
yeah.
Lingao, kumbaga Ed Lingao, bakit nandiyan ka pa rin? Parang gano'n yung tanong.
Prof, you know what, kasi graduate ako 87 eh, Octoberan ako eh. Delayed nga ako dahil sa galing akong pre-med. So graduate ako 87. I only stayed in journalism for mga 6 or 8 months before I resigned. I
Okay.
resigned in disgust talaga. Kasi tinapon ako sa alam mo, you know it is pag graduate mo ng college pag di ba pag seniors kayo, I don't know if you remember, pero pag seniors kayo, ang yayabang ninyo parang mga siga kami dito, kami mga we're on top of the world, kayong lahat mga hampas lupa lang kayo mga junior at mga sophomore, kami mga you feel like you're top of your game you're graduating and all that. So you're up there. Tapos pag graduate ko, una kong trabaho sa Manila Chronicle, tinapon ako sa night shift ng police. I was being paid 12 pesos per column inch. Sinusukat yan kada quincenas ng ruler. Tapos babayaran ka ng 12 pesos for every inch that you publish, not that you print. And that you publish, not that you submit. So in other words, kung i-edit down yung story mo to 2 inches, you get 24 pesos. Ganun. Ganun. And it was so parang for 6 months, I was in night shift alone. Wala akong retainers fee, and I was with police characters and criminals and reporters who look like criminals and policemen who look like criminals as well.
Who are criminals.
I don't want to put it that way, but after mga 6 or 8 months, I remember I resigned in disgust. Sabi ko, ayoko, you guys are f***ing us over. We're here to fight for the rights of people, and yet we don't even have our own rights.
Right.
I resign. I'm going to look for a normal job where the people don't smell like toilets, and the toilets actually work. So I resigned.
Toilets pa rin. Talaga may running theme tayo sa toilet.
So I resigned.
Mm.
Got a job in Magnolia.
Oo.
Corporate communications. Di ba? Doble ata yung sweldo ko, 9 to 5, ganun-ganon. Ang babango ng mga tao.
Ang babango ng mga
Tapos talagang comfy job. I lasted 2 months.
2
I
months
lasted
lang.
2 months. Yeah. I came crawling back and my editor was waiting for me. I knew you were coming back. So she saw something in me that I suppose is what damns me to this day. a sense of stupidity and no, ayun and I came crawling back and I said, this is where I belong. This is what I need to do. It's not something as magnanimous or as incredible as this is what the country needs to do. Hindi ganun eh. Hindi ganun eh. This is what the public needs. Hindi ganun eh.
No.
This is what I need to do. I think I know it was difficult. I know I hated doing these things, but this is something I have to do because this is something that fulfills me. Does not fulfill me physically, financially, mentally. Drives me crazy nga. But I found my calling.
Yeah.
And in the end, that's what drives me. It's when you find your calling, you stick to it. You stick to it like crazy, and everything else follows. Does it make you rich? Does it make you, well, depends. Depends on what kind of reporter you are. A lot of people just become anchors and they become rich by being anchors or by being corrupt. I went through several cycles of resigning, leaving, newspaper being shut down by presidents. I at one point I acquired tuberculosis. Mga ganun. It was a bit of a messy life. My wife would fight me all the time because of the time I spent. So it's not the easiest life at all. But in the end, you think of it like you're there because you have to be there, not because the world needs you, because that would be so yabang naman, so egotistical, but because there's something that has to be done. It's finding a reason for being. And to me, this is my reason for being. Am I doing a good job? I don't know. I hope I am. But this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
Basically yun. This is what I need to do. It has to be done, and this is what I need to do. Whether I'm the right person for the job, I'll leave that to you guys.
Yun. Something needs to be done, and you think that you're someone who can do that and do
I
that
don't know if I'm
well.
someone who can do that, but I'm someone who wants to do that.
Yun.
It's
Once.
different if you say that
Once.
you're the guy, you're blessed and you're brought down from the heavens to, no? Hindi naman ganun. You just need sometimes some people to, no,
Yung gusto.
to want to do it,
Hmm.
to have the drive to do it, and the willingness to do it.
Minsan,
It's like,
minsan,
it's like,
mas mahalaga
it's
yun.
like, profit. Sorry, one last. It's like all the places I've gone to.
Hmm.
I was never deployed, or I was never assigned to cover, for example, Iraq or Afghanistan or Basilan or Holo. I don't get those assignments. I fight for them. I ask to be deployed. I was
Hmm.
never ever assigned to these places. I had to beg to
Hmm.
go. Somebody has to do it.
Bakit kaya hindi kayo pinipili?
I don't need to. Kasi, for example, that was during my time in ABS-CBN. I was in public affairs. It's a news magazine, the correspondence.
Okay. So parang above your pay, below your pay grade na, so to speak.
Well,
Yung ganun.
we do documentaries in the correspondence.
Nga, sir.
Um, so we didn't need to go to those places, not unless we fight for it.
Hmm.
And besides, they didn't want to send people because mahal, tsaka delikado.
Insurance pa. Oo.
Well, when I deployed to Iraq, uh, I didn't have a helmet or a flak jacket. I went to Quiapo to buy my own bulletproof vest with my own money. I went to the Marines to ask for a helmet. Yung ganun. You
Oo.
scrape together resources. I never got a cent of hazard pay for that, uh,
Hmm.
because these are things you want to do.
Ganun
Because you have,
talaga. No.
in a way, it's a sense of mission.
Parang
Eh.
may katik kayo eh. Yun yung nasa-sense ko.
That's one way of putting it.
Diba? May katik kayo eh. Na pag kumate, hindi pwedeng din nyo kamutin eh.
O parang, may nangyayari dun, no? I like to put it this way.
May FOMO
When it
kayo,
comes to,
FOMO.
ano yung FOMO? Ano yung FOMO?
Ay, alam. Fear of missing out. It's an actual thing.
Okay, may ganun
Sa
pala.
mga millennial,
Every day.
FOMO.
You know how I put it, when I talk to reporters, this is how I put it. You can stay by the wayside and watch history pass you by,
Hmm.
or you can get on the dragon's back and try to steer it where you want. Take your pick. Ikaw ba'y
Hmm.
meron o ikaw ba'y makikialam?
Yeah. Yan talaga.
That's why I
Marami.
was in EDSA 1. I was in EDSA 1. Pero estudyante pa ako noon. Yung picture ng mga madre, nakaload sa mga tangke, tapong tangke. Ano sa likod eh, naka-sunglasses.
Okay. So, dyan
I was
pa kayo
third year
nun.
college then.
Hmm. Right. Ako naman, nandun na EDSA 2. Kasi college din ako nun. Sa Ortigas flyover. Meron kaming placard. Ito, ano makakalimutan. May placard kami. Oba rule. The rule is Oba. Kasi di ba naalala niyo si David eh? Ganun siya magsabi.
Uh,
Overrule, overrule. Ganun siya mag-overrule.
si Hilary
Yung,
David eh.
yung spelling ng overrule namin, Obarrool. Overrule. The rule is Oba. So, gano'n kami. Mga barkada nung college, sumisigaw kami, Overrule. The rule is Oba. Tapos naalala
Ano
ko,
yung person?
ang panghinong Ortigas flyover, doon na umiihi ang mga tao eh. Tapos
Ando na kami ng EDSA 2. We were also there. And EDSA 3, but we were there to cover na. And the siege of Malacanang, when Erap's people laid siege to Malacanang, yun, that was also fun. Oh, sorry, wrong word. It was also unusual. So anyway.
Sige sir, siguro bilang pagwawakas, no? sa mga nakikinig, no, sa mga nanonood din sa inyo na I guess maaring na-inspire sa inyong mga binahagi ngayong pag-uusap na atin.
Terrible thought.
Ano yung pwede ninyong iwang, I guess, parang pamana, no, sa kanila na pwede nilang pagmuni-munihan, pag-isipan tuwing gumagawa sila ng mga crucial decision sa buhay nila? Ano yung pwede nilang panghawakan na pwede niyong iwan sa kanila?
It's easy to say na na just do what you want and just just follow your heart.
Mm.
That's easy to say, but at the same time, that's also dangerous to say kasi if my heart tells me to just be a bum,
Tama.
you're not much use to anybody. In the end, I don't know, maybe it's just the way I was brought up. In the end, you want to make a mark, eh. We all make our marks in different ways. In the end, I wanted to leave a mark so that my kid or my kids or the people who would follow me would look back and say, he had a good life.
Mm.
He didn't have a rich life. I mean, he didn't have a life of being financially rich or comfortable, but he fucking had a good life.
Yun. Yun naman.
Yun lang yun eh. He fucking had a good life. Or he had a fucking good life.
Nasulit. Nasulit.
Sulit.
Yun naman yun eh. Diba?
May pakinabang sa'yo yung mundo.
O, hindi ka lang pandiin sa lupa. Diba?
Pataba na lupa.
O, hindi ka lang ganun. Anyways, Bok Ed Lingao, maraming salamat sa inyong pagpapaunlak sa aming imbitasyon. Sobrang daming brain food na pwedeng pagmunihan dito sa ating pag-uusap ng isang oras. Lalo na dun sa paksa ng kamatayan. Sa tingin ko, isang
Weird, no?
bagay yan. Hindi, kasi sa huli, yan talaga ang food for thought na hindi
Yeah.
mauubos eh. Kasi mangyayari na yan sa'yo habang buhay ka eh. Yun eh, di ba?
Yeah.
Namamatay ka na ngayon eh. Tapos you can't do anything about it. It's just happening. You're dying and you're dying and you're dying. And at the same time, you're living and you're living and you're living. And that's the ultimate paradox of life, di ba?
Yeah.
As you
It's a matter of
bloom.
perspective.
Mm,
Yeah. Do you live your life a certain way because of the fear of death, or do you live your life fully?
because of your love of
Yeah.
life, di ba?
Yeah.
Yun.
Because you don't have that much time anymore.
Yun.
So gusto mo na si kamatayan.
Tama. Yun. Yun ang ating iiwang mensahe sa ating mga tagapakinig at tagapanood. No? Maraming salamat, Bok Ed Lingao, sa inyong panahon na ibinahagi at ginugol para dito sa munting podcast. No? At mga Philopeeps, no? Sana ay patuloy ninyong suportahan, i-follow, i-like at i-share ang Kwentuhang Pilosopo with Sir Ice sa Spotify, sa YouTube, sa app. And I'll see you on the next episode. Paalam!
Thanks, Prof.
Ang Kwentuhang Pilosopo with Sir Ice ay produced ni Johan Arceo, Joanna Esquivias, Ryan Anthony Racela, at Cholo Sediare. Executive produced ni GP Abrahano, Drean Deocampo, at YB Wesley. Boses sa intro ni Jonah Pacula, at special participation ni Rene Liboro. Ang Kwentuhang Pilosopo with Sir Ice ay isang original mula sa Pipe Network.
Pipe Network presents